This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Hello again. Welcome to the broadcast. We'll start on Capitol Hill, where the U.S. House is poised to pass President Trump's mega spending bill. That can't happen, however, until Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries stops talking. He's been talking nonstop since early this morning, doing his utmost to delay a final vote.
I feel the obligation, Mr. Speaker, to stand on this House floor and take my sweet time.
The top Democrat in Congress believes most Americans are with him in preventing passage of the Trump agenda.
Every single Democrat stands in strong opposition to this bill.
The legislation in question extends the 2017 Trump tax cuts and beefs up spending for the border and the military.
It's a great bill. There is something for everyone.
Michigan Republican Lisa McClain says the spending package embodies what the president campaigned for and was elected on last November.
Clearly, this is his agenda. Clearly, this is his legacy. This is what he ran on and what 77 million American people voted him in office for.
The White House says the so-called big, beautiful bill will save the average family of four $10,000 on their taxes. It also implements new work requirements for Medicaid recipients, which could cost some 11 million Americans their health insurance. The June jobs report went public today, and it was a good one. Employers adding 147,000 workers to their payrolls. That's better than what economists were expecting. Overall, the unemployment rate for June fell 0.1% to 4.1%. The U.S. Supreme Court will take up two cases in the fall that have to do with biological boys playing girls' sports. These cases are on trans athletes in West Virginia and Idaho. The High Court recently wrapped up its 9-month term. The Pentagon says U.S. airstrikes on Iran last month knocked that country's nuclear weapons program back by 2 years at least. Former Navy intel officer Robert Charles on what he anticipates will be Tehran's next move.
What they'll do is they'll get underneath that rubble heap and they'll try to figure out if there's any of their enriched uranium left, and then they'll come to some internal decision about whether they want to still pretend they're going to go after a nuclear weapon.
3 key Iranian nuclear sites were significantly damaged by more than a dozen bunker buster bombs and Tomahawk missiles in that surprise attack. AAA urging folks to pack their patience as they hit the highways and the skyways for the busy 4th of July holiday. By plane, train, and automobile, we are off. Correspondent Emily Aketa.
Before those July 4th fireworks are sounding off, a record number of Americans are taking off for their holiday weekend destinations.
You have to get out of the city, early enough or you'll never get out.
Nearly 62 million people, according to AAA, getting behind the wheel and along for the ride. A likely long ride for anyone driving in the afternoon today or returning after Independence Day from holiday hotspots.
If you're flying today, experts recommend you get to the airport at least 2 hours early. If you're driving, you'll be happy to know gas prices are the lowest they've been in 4 years for the 4th. AAA's Alexa Diaz.
Travel doesn't have to be expensive. So when we talk about travel, 50 miles or more from home, that can be as simple as you packing up the car and going for a day trip to the beach or to the mountains.
A new survey from the National Retail Federation shows 86% of us plan to celebrate America's birthday this year. President Trump at the state fairgrounds in Des Moines, Iowa today to help kick off America 250. It's a celebration of 250 years since the country's founding. That's known as a semi-quincentennial, and it'll be a year-long celebration. White House spokeswoman Monica Crowley.
We want to unite the country around this landmark event, around America 250, around patriotism and shared values and this renewed sense of civic pride.
Before departing for Iowa, the commander-in-chief will be meeting with freed Hamas hostage Adnan Alexander at the Oval Office. That Israeli-American soldier spent 19 months in in captivity before he was freed last month. July 23rd is sentencing day for the Pennsylvania man who murdered 4 University of Idaho students 3 years ago. Attorney Joshua Ritter says that is when victims' families will be able to confront the killer, Bryan Kohberger.
We've got 4 sets of family members who all have suffered a loss that's unimaginable, and they're all going to have an opportunity to speak in court, speak directly to that man, tell them what he robbed from them and how it has forever scarred their families.
Kohberger will spend the rest of his life in prison without the possibility of parole. He copped a plea deal to spare him the death penalty. 7 people still missing after a fire at a fireworks factory in Northern California. Not clear if those unaccounted for worked at the factory or lived nearby. New study suggests there's no such thing as a safe amount of processed meat. Experts argue habitual consumption of even small amounts of processed meat increases your risk for diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Major milestone in Major League Baseball. It happened last night in Los Angeles.
The ravine rises, ready to erupt. The 20th pitcher in baseball history. The 4th left-handed pitcher, but only the 3rd to record 3,000 career strikeouts with one team. Clayton Edward Kershaw.
LA Dodgers pitcher Clayton Kershaw recording his 3,000th strikeout in the 6th inning in a win over the Chicago White Sox. The future Hall of Famer said afterward,
"It's a little bit harder when you're actually trying to strike people out. I've never really had to do that before. It was hard. You give the White Sox credit, too. They didn't make it easy on me at all."
Kershaw exited the game as the losing pitcher of record, but the Dodgers rallied in the 9th inning for a 5-4 walk-off victory. You couldn't have scripted it any better for Clayton Kershaw. Still to come on the Noon Report, judge upholds the HALT Act, Operation Road Test, and heaping praise on UPenn.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. A little unsettled out there today weather-wise. Still looking terrific for the 4th. Forecast details are up in 10.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you then. Whatever your 4th of July plans are, it might be best to leave the pets out of it. Experts say consider putting them in a safe, escape-proof room or crate during tomorrow night's fireworks.
Some dogs get really scared. They might try and hide under the bed or go into the closet. Let them. Don't drag them out from under the bed. Let them just rest.
Sherry Watcher at the Humane Society says you should keep your pets comfy and distracted.
The safest place for your pet is inside your home, in a secure room. What you might want to do is some distractions by playing some soothing music or turn on the television for some white noise to help drown out the fireworks sound.
When it comes to fireworks, experts say never launch them unless you're in a wide open space far away from homes or other structures. An appeals court judge has ruled that New York prisons must adhere to the HALT Act. That law was a major reason why hundreds of corrections officers went on strike early this year. The COs argue the HALT Act, which limits the use of solitary confinement, makes their jobs unsafe. Judge Michael Lynch says his ruling will not take effect until July 11th to give state prisons time to comply. A lot of Pennsylvanians got a nice surprise yesterday. Family Life's Mark Webster.
Yeah, about 500,000 state residents got rebates deposited into their bank accounts. Those rebates, ranging from $380 to $1,000, went to eligible homeowners and renters as part of the state's property tax and rent rebate program. Statewide, those rebates totaled about $258 million. Those who don't see that direct deposit show up might be getting the rebate the old-fashioned way by a mailed check, which should show up over the next few weeks. The rebates are intended to help those on fixed, low, and moderate incomes, including seniors, those who've lost a spouse, and adults with disabilities. Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you, Mark. Scandal involving the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles. Investigators say 3 DMV employees in the New York City area conspired with a driving school to get driver's licenses for hundreds, maybe even thousands of people without those people ever having to take a road test. Richmond County DA Michael McMahon.
Too many people have gotten driver's licenses because of corruption, greed, theft. Countless individuals are now driving on our roads without ever having demonstrated the basic skills necessary to do it safely. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
The Staten Island DA says the applicants, most of them of Chinese descent, paid up to $2,000 each for those bogus driver's licenses. The sting operation, called Operation Road Test, resulted in the DMV employees being suspended. They could ultimately wind up in prison. Pro-family activists are heaping praise on the University of Pennsylvania for banning transgender athletes in women's sports.
I'm thrilled with what this Ivy League school did. It's really an example of restorative justice, because not only are they protecting the privacy of the girls and women on the teams there, but also in terms of protecting the fairness in the competition.
Michael Geer at the Pennsylvania Family Institute hopes the action taken by UPenn catches on with other schools.
It tells the school districts here in Pennsylvania, around the country, the colleges and universities that get federal funding, that they need to get in line with reality, with common sense, and protect girls and women. It also, I think, tells the Pennsylvania General Assembly, specifically the House of Representatives here and our governor, that they need to take action on the Senate bill that passed that protects girls' sports. We need to see that action happen here in Pennsylvania, and hopefully what happened there at the University of Pennsylvania will spread far and wide.
UPenn reached an historic deal with the U.S. Education Department after being accused of violating the rights of female athletes by allowing trans athletes to compete in girls' sports. Call it a sign of the times. A new security barrier has been installed at the Niagara Falls State Park in order to prevent suicides. There have been 2 suicides there the past week, at least 30 since the start of the decade. Visitors tell WGRZ they have mixed feelings about that barrier around the park's popular observation deck.
For a while, it's probably a good idea, but then they should take them down.
All these people can't get to the railing because of this railing. The barriers are, I don't think, necessary.
This is the first time ever that a safety barrier like this has been installed at Niagara Falls. Parks police say it's only temporary. That fence keeps tourists about 4 feet back from the deck's outermost railing. This year, there have been more than 800 drug overdoses in Monroe County, New York. Officials in the Rochester region have placed 600 Narcan boxes in strategic locations so users don't have to become statistics. Narcan reverses the effect of a drug overdose. A map of where those boxes are can be found online at monroecounty.gov. That's monroecounty.gov. A Pennsylvania law enforcement official has found himself on the wrong side of the law.
A Western Pennsylvania constable is facing multiple charges after allegedly impersonating a police officer and later hiding firearms in violation of a protection from abuse order. Authorities say Herman Staple II was pulled over in May while driving a Chevy Tahoe outfitted like a police vehicle, complete with flashing lights, a mounted laptop, and a camera. He claimed to be a retired Pittsburgh officer, but investigators say there's no record of that. A month later, after a PFA barred Staple from owning guns, sheriffs say they found hidden firearms, some unregistered, behind a trap door in his closet. He now faces 9 gun-related misdemeanors. Staple remains jailed and will have court hearings later this month. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Tick season is underway, and officials are urging you to take precaution. New York and Pennsylvania among the top 10 states with the highest rates of Lyme disease. Experts say animals can get infected too. More than 10% of all dogs in Pennsylvania have tested positive for Lyme disease. The man who brought attention to the benefits of sleep has just died.
Like to catch a snooze in the middle of the day? You can thank James Moss for the power nap. His family says the Cornell professor who popularized the term has died at the age of 86. He packed lecture halls and sold books promoting research into the cognitive and health benefits of getting enough sleep. Moss, a social psychologist, cited the culture of muscling through as the enemy, challenging perceptions that being bleary-eyed and sleep-deprived was a mark of success. His recipe, 15 to 20 minutes of shut-eye when you're yawning wide.
All right, the power nap. Thank you very much, Deborah Rodriguez. Sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, it was a back-and-forth affair between the Blue Jays and the Yankees yesterday, and New York could never quite get over the hump. Toronto prevailed 11-9. Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge both hit home runs and drove in 3. With their 4th straight victory, the Blue Jays have now moved into a tie for first place with the Yankees in the American League East. A couple of grand slams helped decide which team won between the Mets and the Brewers. In Game 1, Joey Ortiz hit the go-ahead granny to propel Milwaukee to a 7-2 victory. In Game 2, Brandon Nimmo answered with his own granny to help the Amazons to a 7-3 win. That also ends the Mets' 4-game losing skid. In Pittsburgh, they're talking about their 6-game winning streak, the best of the season for them. Once again, the Pirates pitching dominated, shutting out St. Louis for the 3rd straight game. Mitch Keller, 7 innings, struck out 7 in the 5-0 win. The Phillies split their doubleheader with the Padres. San Diego won the first 6-4. The Phils came back in the nightcap 5-1. Christopher Sanchez spun 7 innings of 1-run ball. In Los Angeles, Clayton Kershaw is there. He became the 20th member of the 3,000 strikeout club and just the 4th lefty to reach that mark. Yeah, the Dodgers won the game too, 5-4 against the White Sox. And in the NBA, the Knicks have a new head coach. Reports are that Mike Brown will be at the helm next season. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy Man, thank you very much. And still to come on the Noon Report for Thursday, Kev says picture-perfect weather for your 4th of July holiday. Some key wins for conservatives at the Supreme Court this term. And big doings on Capitol Hill. Congress close to passing that so-called big, beautiful bill.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. In a recent social media post, Kian Sadeghi, the CEO of a company named Nucleus Genomics, announced, quote, "Nucleus Embryo is the first ever genetic optimization software that helps parents give their children the best possible start in life, long before they're even born. Longevity was never just about health, it's about thriving. That's why this announcement also marks the first time in human history a company has openly partnered with a couple to help them optimize their embryos based on intelligence," end quote. Now don't be fooled. Quote unquote optimizing embryos is just slick ad campaign language for killing kids. Nucleus Genomics isn't in the business of using genetic therapies for diagnosing disease and then treating them. Its product is to test embryos for genetic imperfections and then eliminate those embryos. In other words, the company sells eugenics, and their campaign material is the story of the first couple to, quote-unquote, genetically optimize an embryo for health and intelligence using their services. The commercial proudly describes what motivates that process. Quote, "The question arose, which of the 20 embryos should we implant? The obvious answer, we wanted to start with the one embryo that was most likely to grow up to be a healthy adult." Now, of course, they fail to mention what this means for the other 19 embryos. As Matthew Lee Anderson noted, quote, "The end of their launch video grants that this technology has to overcome a real stigma to be accepted. And so what the company appeals to is the autonomy of the consumer, saying, quote, "Some people don't think you should have this choice, but it's not their choice to make, it's yours." It's the selfishness that's inherent to this whole project that makes it so cruel. The campaign video highlights well-cared-for children, but the company isn't promising to give children their best life. It's promising to give parents the child that they want for their best life. They're not helping eliminate dyslexia or autism or cancer or Down syndrome. They're eliminating kids who might have these conditions so that parents never have to deal with such problems. Commercialized genetic testing only serves to commodify human beings, reducing them from persons made in God's image to things that are for sale. Resisting the barbarism sold with this commercial face demands that we recover the biblical truth about human dignity, that every single human being, no matter age, health, or stage of development, is eternally valuable, because each and every one carries the divine imprint of the image of God. We must never allow this essential truth to be obscured, especially by mere slick ad campaigns. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint. Today's Breakpoint was co-authored by Dr. Timothy Paget. And for a version of this commentary that you can print and share with others, go to colsoncenter.org/radio.
Thank you, John. Let's head outside. Kevin Williams, you're up.
Here is your Family Life weather forecast for this afternoon. Variable clouds and sunshine, a couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms. Any thunderstorm could be locally feisty, especially in eastern Pennsylvania and the eastern southern tier of New York. High temperatures around just over 80. Dropping tonight into the 50s as skies clear. The 4th, plenty of sunshine. It's a beauty. Mid-70s to near 80. Sunshine warmer Saturday, 80s to near 90.
All right, going to get hot this weekend. Thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report. I'm Bob Price. Lots to get to Thursday, the 3rd of July. House Republicans seem poised to pass the president's self-entitled Big Beautiful Bill ahead of his self-imposed 4th of July deadline. It expands the Trump tax cuts and beefs up spending for border security as well as military readiness. South Dakota's Dusty Johnson.
Members are moving to yes. Donald Trump is the best closer in the business, and we're going to get it done.
NBC's Ryan Nobles.
At the end of the day, and I think this is important, it seemed pretty clear that these hardcore supporters of Donald Trump had no interest in denying him the bill that he desperately wanted.
The White House says the GOP mega bill will save the average family of four $10,000 on their taxes. Critics contend it also implements new work requirements for Medicaid, and that could cost 11 million Americans their health insurance. The June jobs report went public today, and it was stellar. Employers adding about 150,000 workers to their payrolls. That is better than what economists were hoping. And also, the overall unemployment rate went down to 4.1%. The holiday getaway is well underway. Experts are calling for record travel as you gear up for your Independence Day festivities. Gas Buddy's Patrick DeHaan says the price at the pump is the best it's been in 4 years for the 4th.
Collectively, that's going to lead Americans to save $500 million between Thursday and Sunday compared to what they spent last year.
Today and Sunday expected to be the busiest days at the airport all summer. Some 50,000 flights over those 2 days.
The nation's airlines are hoping the 4th of July holiday will bring some independence from the severe storms along the East Coast that have delayed and canceled thousands of flights since Friday.
We can't fly back to Norfolk. There are no flights available.
American Airlines expects Sunday to be its busiest day of the entire summer.
July 4th is the peak of the peak.
Airline industry analyst Henry Hartevelt.
The big concerns I have are the weather and air traffic control. Will the system hold up?
CBS's Chris Van Cleve says along the East Coast, except for Florida, the weather looks absolutely gorgeous for the 4th. Sentencing day is later this month for Brian Kohberger in Idaho. He's the Pennsylvania man who copped a plea deal to avoid the death penalty for killing 4 university students back in 2022.
Kohberger will be back in court on July 23rd to be formally sentenced, and that's when the victim's family members will be able to speak to him directly to tell him how these killings have impacted their lives. But because this case will never go to trial, we may never get an answer to the biggest question: why did he brutally murder these 4 college students?
Correspondent Carter Evans. The official weigh-in is happening today for the Nathan's famous 4th of July hot dog eating contest. It happens on Coney Island every Independence Day.
Joey Chestnut, who has dominated this event over the years, will be once again taking part after he was banned from the contest last year over an endorsement deal with a rival. Chestnut ate a world record 83 hot dogs and buns in just 10 minutes last year during a different contest. The Nathan's defending women's champion, meanwhile, Miki Sudo, she'll be trying to pick up another mustard belt. Scott Pringle, NBC News Radio, New York.
All right, Scott, thank you. You're listening to the Noon Report for Thursday on Family Life.
This is Faith Under Fire. We take you straight to the voices on the front lines of religious battlegrounds. I'm news anchor Sarah Harnish, and with me today, Director of Global Family Foundation at Focus on the Family, Glenn Stanton. We're talking culture wars. It's been a landmark year at the nation's highest court. The Supreme Court dropped a number of major rulings on religious freedom. It sided with South Carolina against Planned Parenthood Medicaid funding. It ruled Tennessee has the right to ban sex changes on minors. Texas can require age verification for pornography sites. And parents can make sure their kids opt out when they're going to get exposed to LGBTQ+ books in schools. The rulings are a huge victory, but the response after, not so much. With Planned Parenthood, people are concerned about having fewer options to abort their babies. On the Tennessee case, one liberal justice said the court was, quote, depriving adolescents of important treatment. What's going on?
These have been great decisions. I mean, we take our lumps from the Supreme Court oftentimes, but this has been a pretty good session in that there have been some really strong decisions that we here at Focus on the Family have really celebrated. The decision coming out of the South Carolina case, South Carolina does not have to pay Planned Parenthood Medicaid payments for abortions that they perform is a wonderful thing, and that Tennessee has a right to protect its own children from predatory transgender medicalization. And this is really wonderful. And just like you said, the way that the media is spinning these things, I just noticed this morning, I mean, on our TVs here at Focus on the Family, CNN has the story, the decision in Texas to whether pornographers online should have to prove that they're not pushing their material to minors. And CNN says that this is a freedom of speech issue over and against protecting minors. No, it's not a freedom of speech issue for pornographers to have to prove that they're not pushing stuff on minors. Just the way that they spin this stuff is just absolutely incredible.
As Christians, sometimes, though, we feel like we are on the opposing side of belief systems in this culture. We just had a story this last week. 600,000 gay and lesbian couples have been wed since gay marriage was legalized 10 years ago. Are we now the minority on life, marriage, and biological sex?
You know what is interesting, and I love the way you ask that question, because it can often feel like we are the minority on issues of marriage, life, and what does it mean to be male and female. But I tell you what, I am absolutely convinced that President Barack Obama back in the day used to say, we need to support same-sex marriage to be on the right side of history. I absolutely believe that we as Christians are absolutely on the right side of history, because all of these crazy ideas are going to prove themselves unworkable. 10 years of same-sex marriage. And you know what it did? It radically redefined what it means to be male and female, to the place where we have ridiculous people like Dylan Mulvaney parading themselves around on social media, pretending to be a girl, not just a woman. This is like a 28-year-old guy pretending to be a girl. That's the ridiculousness that Obergefell, the Supreme Court decision that came down, wrought upon all of us. Obergefell gave us the deconstruction of what it means to be male and female, because if you effectively replace either mother or father in the family with a man's gay lover or a woman's lesbian partner, then male and female are just mere preferential. They mean nothing. And that is exactly what the Obergefell decision has given us.
What is the answer when you're called a bigot, a hater, transphobic, a person who cares nothing for women's bodies and women's rights?
It's interesting because that's exactly what we're called nearly every day. I mean, Focus on the Family just got on the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate list. It's like a schoolyard bully. All they can do is call you names. And we have to remember the same wisdom that our parents told us back then is like, names are just names. They're accusations. They're not an argument. And we get called hateful. We get called bigoted. We get called transphobic. And you know what? You just have to let that roll off your back, because they're calling us those names because our arguments, the cases that we are making for truth, are having a real impact. They are landing a blow, and we need to keep it up, and we need to keep speaking the truth in love and arguing and contending for the truth that God has given us in nature and culture, because that is what we are called to do as Christians.
What will it take to change the vocabulary in America?
We have to change the victimhood in America. America is the land of opportunity. You see it so often through the left, but you see it invading the church. It's like, oh my goodness, America is such a horrible place. I mean, just a while ago, 2 weeks ago, Whoopi Goldberg on The View said America is a worse place to be a black woman than a woman in Iran. I mean, that is literally crazy talk. And what we have to do is we have to demonstrate the hope and the opportunity that we have in America to live better lives, the freedoms that we have to speak truth.
How does the layman who's listening do it? How do you do it?
I have a book that I wrote in 2018 called The Myth of the Dying Church. The church is not dying. We need to have faith that the Holy Spirit is just as powerful today, and He is affecting change through the blood of Jesus Christ, and we must never, ever give up on that great hope.
Learn more at FocusOnTheFamily.com.
All right, Sarah, thank you. And our thanks as well to Glenn Stanton at Focus on the Family. The name of the program, Faith Under Fire, comes your way Thursdays during the Noon Report or online anytime at FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. We've got another cold front on the weather map. Going to be crossing the area today, kicking up a couple of thunderstorms and showers along the way. Then high pressure in western Ontario. That's our fair weather friend for the 4th, shaping up to be a beauty. Then the heat builds this weekend, a great weekend to spend some time near, on, or in the water. The forecast for this afternoon, variable clouds and sunshine, a couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms. Any thunderstorms could be locally feisty, especially in eastern Pennsylvania and the eastern southern tier of New York. High temperatures around just over 80. Dropping tonight into the 50s as skies clear. The 4th, plenty of sunshine. It's a beauty. Mid-70s to near 80. Sunshine warmer Saturday, 80s to near 90.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin. Finally, at noon, Chuck E. Cheese is not just for kids anymore. Check this out. The pizza joint / arcade chain is opening a spin-off aimed at adults. How about that? It's called Chuck's Arcade, and it includes games geared for grown-ups. 10 of these adult-themed Chuck E. Cheeses are open right now at malls across America. The CEO of Chuck E. Cheese says the spin-off is a natural evolution for the company that has remodeled some 500 stores nationwide. This expansion effort comes 5 years after Chuck E. Cheese filed for bankruptcy during the height of the COVID pandemic. And that's our world, the world we live in, Thursday, the 3rd of July. Before we go, this programming note, we will have a special broadcast of the Noon Report tomorrow celebrating America's birthday. Hope you can join us then. Have a wonderful Independence Day weekend. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at FamilyLife.org.